Have we stopped to think about what we really want? What would make us happy? Have we even given ourselves permission to define success on our own terms?
And unless we're aware of it and can really embrace stepping into and addressing it, it can really cause a lot of internal negativity in our lives. Our subconscious starts playing tricks with us.
Welcome to Career Compass, mapping your future. Visit YourCareerRevolution.com today to get your free guide on the benefits of working with a career ownership coach. Hello again, and welcome to Career Compass, the show dedicated to helping you map your future as you reimagine and reclaim the life of your dreams. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of our 10-episode season dedicated to the 10 steps to your ideal career. As you may know by now, my name is Tamara Loring, and I'm with the Entrepreneur Source. And we at the Entrepreneur Source have been absolutely obsessing for over 40 years what to do to help individuals like you and like me figure out our possibilities, our options, and our dreams, and what defining success on our own terms means. As a matter of fact, if you keep on thinking, gosh, there has to be a better way, then I would encourage you to go to careercompassshow.com and take our pod, our possibilities, options, and dreams assessment. Today, organizational psychologist Dr. Mike and I want to explore this idea of the comparison trap. Doc, I believe it will be an absolutely fascinating conversation to understand how comparing ourselves to others can, I would say, undermine not only job satisfaction, but perhaps personal fulfillment. And I really want us to dig in deep to understand what it means to define success on our own terms. What do you think? Go ahead and say hello to the audience.
Yep. Hello, everyone. T, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here as always. And this is going to be a really good episode because this is a very real thing. It's a phenomenon that happens to everyone at every age, everywhere. But the good news is, like you just said, that there is hope and there is another way. We just have to have the courage to take that first step of reaching out to someone like the Entrepreneur Source to help us navigate out of that trap.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything that any human being is immune to, right? To some degree, I think we all suffer from it. As a matter of fact, I saw this survey done in 2023. I think it was by YourGov. And they said that 60% of adults measure their own success and their own self-worth by looking at what their peers are doing, looking at what their peers are achieving, especially as it relates to career progression and financial milestones. So that really got me thinking, saying, do you know what? Is true career satisfaction and personal fulfillment living up to somebody else's expectations? Is this what we're doing to ourselves? Are we constantly thinking, what does my boss want from me? What does, my spouse want from me? What do my parents think I should be doing? And we keep on living up to these expectations of what other people think we should be doing. And so my question really is to you, as well as to the listeners, have we stopped to think about what we really want? What would make us happy? Have we even given ourselves permission to define success on our own terms? So I would love for you to take that topic and run with it.
So that's a really, really good question. And if you think about it, this whole idea of living up to someone else's expectations or falling into the comparison trap, let's go way, way back to when we first started school, right? Kindergarten, and you're in first grade, second grade. And if you remember, the farther along you get, I remember when I was a kid, I had no problem taking a big cardboard box. And one of those things that you drain pasta in, what are they called? Got the holes in it, the
I guess a strainer or something like that.
strainer or colander.
Yeah, you're right.
So I could put one of those on my head inside a box and I was an astronaut. Like, right. And just the dreams and just the imagery would just flow wild. Well, then you get into first grade and, you're dreaming and thinking about and creating and imagining. And what starts to happen? Now, Mike, stop daydreaming and pay attention. Eyes up here. Right. And so from that young age, we're starting to be conditioned to to not dream, to follow someone else's orders. We're in a class of 30 where you get racked and stacked by grades and GPAs, right? And little,
Oh,
academic achievement awards and student of the quarter. Then you start to go on to college and then your first job, where now the competition is even more stiff, right? You got to be, up at the top of the list for promotions, for raises, to get a good annual appraisal. And all of that is contingent upon what someone else thinks and how they believe you're doing. So then you add on top of that social media, right? Where we see people living these awesome lives with all this money and this travel and everything's perfect. And unless we're aware of it, and can really embrace stepping into and addressing it, it can really cause a lot of internal negativity in our lives. Our subconscious starts playing tricks with us based on what we're consciously thinking about, right? So then, am I good enough? Am I ever going to make it? Why can't I be like that person? Why can't I make more money? Why can't I get the promotion? Then we could fall into that trap. So that's why, again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I so love not only what you all do, but the process that you have in place to help people navigate and unpack to really discover who they are truly called to be and just the beauty and the power that each one of us have within us to march to our own drum.
oh my gosh, there's so much there, as I'm listening to your story and as you're talking about the progression, I think about how somewhere along the lines we just lose ourselves, right? Whether it's, in kindergarten when the teacher tells you stop daydreaming, when we're starting to compare ourselves to the peers and the pressure of constantly performing and competing and, outdoing ourselves. And you're right, as an adult, when last did we stop and just dream like a kid where failure was not an option and we were just insanely curious and we really didn't care what the other person thought. I mean, as long as we're not out to harm or hurt anybody, but we only get this one life. Why not make it the best life ever? And you're absolutely right. If our listeners hadn't gotten a copy or secured a copy of the Your Career Revolution, I would absolutely encourage you get yourself a copy of this book because it's really the opportunity to stimulate some thinking for yourself. Take permission or give yourself permission to take some time out from your current reality, especially if you feel like it's not serving you and you're feeling trapped and you feel like you're on this hamster wheel and things are just going so fast. Stop. Stop for just a second and take a break from that. This book will really give you the opportunity to start dreaming like a kid again, right? Where, okay, put that, calendar or whatever it is on your head and just think about what could be possible. Don't limit yourself to conventional paths or what you think others think you should be doing. As a matter of fact, in the back of the book, there's this exercise. It is called 5 Steps to Finding Your Primary Aim. And it really just allows you to think a little bit more deeply about what you don't want in life as well as what you do want in life. It allows you to prioritize the things that are important to you and the things that get you excited. And if they're not getting you excited, you're not there yet. As a matter of fact, keep digging. Think about the things that could be a barrier, maybe a mental barrier, maybe an actual barrier. But if you don't recognize the barriers, how will you even know to overcome them? As a matter of fact, one of the things in there that I really like, and it sometimes takes people off guard a little bit when we talk about maybe start with the end in mind and start with by writing your eulogy. And that sounds a little like, wait a minute, if we're talking about life, why are we talking about the end of life? But it's an interesting thought exercise to think about how do you want to be remembered? What is the legacy that you want to leave? What is the life that you wanted to have lived by, right? And then reverse engineer what do I need to do today in order to aspire to get there? Maybe the goal may shift over time, but at least you have a goal. So this exercise is really trying to help you figure out what is your primary aim in life, your purpose. Oh my gosh, I spoke a lot again. So I want you to comment on maybe some of the things I said there.
So a couple things that struck me that you said, which I don't think we give enough thought about this, but you said something very important. Like, not only is it extremely beneficial, obviously, to figure out what you do want in life,
Mhm.
but it is just as important to identify and become aware of what you don't want in life. Because
Mhm.
if we're always focusing on what we do want and just kind of ignoring what we don't want, even though it may exist in our lives, then we just keep accepting that. Right. So we're still having that don't want in our life. So identifying both sides of the coin is extremely important. So you can increase one and decrease the other. Right. The second thing, that eulogy exercise, it's really funny you mentioned that because in every single executive that I coach, we go through a core purpose statement exercise, right? So that is really defining why you were put on this earth as an individual, right? What you are called to do. And part of that is the legacy exercise. And it's very similar to what you said. And it starts like, imagine you're at the end of your life, you're
Mm.
surrounded by people that love you, your friends, your loved ones, colleagues. One by one, they come up to you and whisper to you, right? So then the exercise is in the role of a family member, who is whispering in your ear and what are they saying? In the role of a colleague, in the role of a business leader, in the role of a community partner. So that gives you a really, really good snapshot into reflecting on where you currently are and are you truly stepping into number one, who you're called to be, but number two, creating the legacy you want to leave behind and the way you want to be remembered. So all of those things and the other exercises and assessments that you all offer really boil down to creating alignment in your life from the inside out, right? And once you do that, man, I'll tell you what, the possibilities truly are endless, right? Only by the restrictions that we put on our own selves through our minds. So I love both of those. Those are the two main things I wanted to touch on that you said.
Oh, it is so powerful. As a matter of fact, as you were speaking, and it made me think about one of the things that our founder, Terry Pawlo, often talk about is T, are you a human doing? You're so busy doing, doing, doing that you never stop? Or do you give yourself permission to be a human being? Who am I supposed to be? What is my purpose? Right. And it's just a completely different mindset. So, again, if you missed it before, I would encourage you go to careercompass.com and take our pod assessment, the possibilities, options, and dream assessment, just to give yourself permission to start dreaming again and think about what's possible so that you can live a life with purpose. When I think about some of the examples, of course, as career ownership coaches, this is our business. We have helped tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people at this point in time just reimagine and reclaim the life that could be possible. As a matter of fact, so many times we hear about people feeling stuck in their corporate careers. As a matter of fact, we've seen it so much that we've actually coined a term for it called Battered Career Syndrome, which makes you think, wait a minute, if I'm feeling battered and beat up, why would I subject myself to, this continually? Why wouldn't I just stop and move in a different direction? And I think it's because people are stuck in this comparison trap, right? What will my spouse think, right? I have an obligation to them. I've always been the breadwinner, or maybe I've already invested so much in this career path that I've been following. Now would seem foolish to give up, or maybe I invested, my parents' money or my own money, to fill in the blank, pursue this professional career, right? And so we feel like we're in too deep. And it's actually really like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, and yet we keep on doing these things. And we've created these mental constraints for ourselves where we limit ourselves to what could be possible, where we limit ourselves to what we could experience, what we could do, and what we could be. I would ultimately say that we're actually even robbing ourselves of our own personal freedom because of the comparison trap. I
100%.
would love for you to comment more on that.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. The comparison trap does keep us stuck in it. If you think about this, when you compare yourself to others, right? I think there's a fine line here that I really want to make the differentiation about, right? So when you have someone that you really admire, someone you aspire to be like, someone who's doing exactly what you really truly believe you want to do and are called to do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with not comparing yourself to that person, but seeking advice, seeking mentorship, right? That's one thing. The comparison part is when you sit and look at that same person and then you go down the rabbit hole that we just talked about. I wish I could be making the impact he or she is. I wish I had what they had. I wish I was as well known as that person. I wish I'd been doing this longer. I wish I would have started 10 years ago. I should have. I wish. I should have. I wish. Then we keep doing that. And what does that do inside to us? Again, psychologically, that just really, first of all, it squashes us, right? It starts to gnaw away at self esteem, self confidence. We have self doubt instead of self assuredness. So all this negative psychological impact really starts to help. And it's very sneaky, right? So it happens without us even really knowing what's going on or why exactly we're feeling the way we do, right? But just we know we just don't feel good about ourselves. And a lot of times it's because of that whole comparison. And the thing I love about what you all offer is they can go down this, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I believe people are more than welcome to and can absolutely go down this exploration journey road while they're still working their job. Like there's nothing that says, well, before you even start checking things out, you got to quit, got to walk away from your corporate job, right? This is something that can be done simultaneously. Is that right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, think about, how much time we spend on social media. Think about how much time we spend on Netflix. So just take one activity that's maybe a mindless exercise that you're doing every single day. Instead of, scrolling down social media, just invest maybe 20 minutes reading a chapter of the book or listening to one of these podcasts as you're doing right now. And, even engaging with the coach. I mean, here's the counterintuitive part about it. People always feel that it's too good to be true, that a service like ours is out there where a career ownership coach is willing to invest in you without charging for their time. As a matter of fact, people always think, wait a minute, there must be a catch, right? There is no catch. The catch is we're willing to invest in you if you're willing to invest in yourself. And we know that if we've left you in a better, more hopeful, a more empowered place than you were before we met you, that we've done right by you. And 75% of the adult population has this desire to want to be self sufficient, but they're scared to death to do something by themselves. They don't know where to go. And like you said, sometimes it's being with somebody who maybe believes in your dreams, maybe a little bit more than you do at that moment, and who's able to show you just a little different path. As a matter of fact, we'll work with you under two conditions: make no decisions prematurely, which hopefully that will give you some relief, and keep an open mind. The beautiful thing when that happens is you start seeing possibilities that you couldn't see for yourself. You can start dreaming again without the fear of somebody saying, stop daydreaming. That's not realistic. As a matter of fact, if you look at people who are successful today, I guarantee you, there were probably 80% or 90% of the people around them who said, what you're pursuing is impossible. What you're pursuing is not realistic. What you pursue, all these people, we call them crabs in the basket, who steal your dream. So I encourage you, if that is the message that you're hearing from people, you're surrounded by dream stealers. It's time to find dream catchers. And a career ownership coach or an organization like ours can absolutely help you with that.
Yep. Yeah, and if I could real quick, one of the things that I know that you've heard this before, T, and I think we even talked about this, but you can go out there and look at all of the most successful people and in the personal development and in the professional world. So we're talking Warren Buffett, Bob Proctor, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Steve Jobs when he was still with us, all these people, Les Brown, Mark Victor Hansen, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that they all say across the board that's in common, if you're going to bet on anything, bet on yourself, right?
That's
That is probably one of the most surest bets in this world that you can make because what you control you, right? We do have full control over our mindset, our decisions, our path. So I just for the listeners, just take that step and just bet on yourself. At least explore the possibilities.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, you are uniquely you, and that is your superpower. Doc, as always, I love chatting with you. And I definitely think our listeners are able to take something away from today, whether it is taking that pod assessment, grabbing a copy of this book, reaching out to a career ownership coach. So many possibilities out there. Really, the ball's in the airport.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you so much, T. I appreciate you and what you all do. Thank you so much to the listeners too. I hope you find value in this And please just take that step and just explore again what is truly possible.
Fantastic. Until next time. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go to YourCareerRevolution.com and request your free guide to the benefits of working with a career ownership coach. Thank you so much for listening.